Accidental disconnect. Yes, that sounds like a good one. Afternoon, folks. Should be here. Hopefully we're all present and correct. Howdy, folks. There we go. Good. See and hear. That's the main thing. Pleased to hear it. Hopefully we got Ty here this week. I haven't had him for ages. Wonder what he's been up to. Okay. That's that one. We can see where we all are. Yeah, sorry about the big delay for the Sonic Lab stuff. Just had a load of stuff in the way, and now I'm really flattened everything out, unfortunately. So I do hope you enjoyed that. There should be some more coming along soon. In fact, we're hoping to get David Arlen here on Friday with the TRA-S, which we obviously will be talking about it. So, back on track. Let's see, what I might do is... What's that one there? Let me just check something quickly. Bitwig going to replace Studio 2.2 is here. Bitwig Studio combines both. Yeah, let's see if we can swap that out for something else. Let's have a look. What's new? We haven't got one of those. Should do an ad for our freeze machines, which I haven't done, but I should do one of those. That's one of the things on the list. Freeze machines, Corsair frozen reverbs. You got a notification for Prenam show today. That's weird. I don't think so. It doesn't say that. It says Facebook Live. I don't think Facebook have really got their video stuff together, to be honest. I have to run the interface, the web interface, from another browser. It just doesn't seem to work in Chrome, which is kind of irritating. YouTube, the chat can be recorded and viewed with the video. Is that right? That's interesting. Cool. Oh, it is recorded. Brilliant. Oh, excellent. Well, thanks for buying it, Azure Head. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I think we're going to do a version which is effects only, so you don't need a Ableton Live suite. So you can still get that. Oh, you got it this morning. Cool. Right, let's see where we are. Get some things recording, moving stuff around. So what else has been happening? Yeah, mostly this week it's been Mini Brute 2 finishing and wrapping up some stuff. I got a couple of, the usual fact check, got a couple of things. For some reason, I couldn't get the velocity working on the sequencer, and it was just, I don't know why. It must have been something else I had set up, and I was convinced that the velocity wasn't working on the Mini Brute 2, not the 2S. But the 2S sequencer looks pretty cool. There's some very interesting stuff. So, what's going on? How is everybody? Hello. Let's see who we got. We've got some YouTubers. I was just watching some Yes that was sent in by, I think it was Scott from Canada. Hi from Berlin, Ben Breslin. We'll be in Berlin in a couple of 2 months, I think, yeah, for the Super Booth. Really looking forward to that. As ever. Oh, wow. Thank you, Wagyu. That's very kind of you. You don't need Macs to run freeze machines. You just need Ableton Suite. But we can do, I think what we're going to do is a version that's just got the effects, the input processing. So you don't need to use any of the instruments that we've been using to sort of feed the sequencer. Yeah, see you there, Ben. Paula Blanca, California. Lego Stevie B in Poland, France, Julian Unison. Let's see, I've got okay, I think I need to reload that. That's annoying. That's not. Let's have a look. Can I do that? Oh, that's annoying. So I chat yeah, that's annoying. So let me see if that should pick it up again now. How do I refresh that? Is that possible? Reload page. Yeah, there we go. Phew. Thank goodness for that. Got all the things working. Florida, Malaysia, wow, Texas, all over the place. What an international crowd you are. San Antonio, Bucharest. I think Malaysia is probably the furthest. Dusseldorf, Holland, Chicago, Toronto. Hey, Ken Flux Pierce. Argentina, Nashville. Ah, I love Nashville. Nashville's a great city. I used to really enjoy going to Summer NAMM. It really feels like going to, but it's not like with LA. You go to LA and you feel that it's all a bit sort of over showbiz, whereas Nashville still feels like it's kind of got a really good solid roots in music. I mean, I'm sure it's got its aspects to it. Mike Smith from the UK. Godalming. I know there. I used to have a contact in Hazelmere, which is very close to Godalming. Used to go there a lot, actually. Love that part of the world. Old Trafford. Manchester, Denver. The Void. Excellent. Right, so let's see who we're just waiting for our... I just need to scroll down. We should have our guests coming in at some point soon. We've got Ty Unwin. Haven't seen him for a long time. Steve Hillier and Rich Hilton. We haven't seen them for a while. I know Rich has been working on an album project. Norway. Yeah, Summer NAMM. Ohio as well. And Bristol. Weasel 6 in Bristol. Gosh, there's a lot of you from all over the place. Snotterdam. I'm guessing that's Rotterdam, but with a cold, is it? PTT. Cool. You know what? I still haven't actually made it to see the new Blade Runner film. I thought it was going to be on the plane, but we flew Norwegian, which was budget, and they didn't really have that much current stuff. I think I watched Wonder Woman, which was actually a lot better than many of the other films on the flight. That tells you something. But it was perfectly fine. Fermuso's not getting live video on this page. Oh, okay. I don't know why that would be. Let me check. Looks like it's running through. Says all the connectors say they're going all right. Oklahoma, Sussex, Planet Rock. Yeah, good answer. Interesting. Fermuso not getting live video. Maybe you just refresh it, Fermuso. That might work. Let's see if we're getting it through to the Facebook. Yeah, Facebook seems to be getting it, although I haven't gone live yet. Right. So we're getting everybody starting to pile in. Who have we got? I'm just filling time, really, at this point, aren't I suppose. New Blade Runner is great. Yeah, watching it on a plane would be a bit of an insult to the film, but that was the only opportunity I got, and it's no longer in the movie theatres. Mixed reviews for Blade Runner. Yeah, I noticed that. Oslo. I don't think I've ever been to Oslo. Everybody seems to be getting the stream. That's good. Place. I haven't got any synths hooked up. Otherwise I would. Don't think I can do it. So, what's the time? Yeah, we've got 10 minutes and then we should start seeing some people show up, I'm guessing. No spoilers. Yeah. Fair enough. I would like to, I don't think I've ever seen anything in IMAX. I would like to see something in IMAX. There's an IMAX theatre in Bristol. Excuse me. Ooh. I wonder if I can get the. I might be able to get it to work. Hold on a sec. Oops, it's a bit loud. Let's take that down a bit, see what we can get. Sorry, I couldn't bring you a camera for that, but there's a bit. Hey, there's Ty. Where is he? Hello, sir.
Ooh,
Let me just make
how are
sure
you?
I've got. I'm good, thank you. I was just messing about with the. We could do that. Yes, I was just messing about with the Mini Brute 2, which is actually pretty good.
Oh, lovely.
Uh, and
Sounded
the
it's
uh, and the Ventress dual reverb, which is really nice. Actually, I'm quite enjoying that.
okay.
So let's see. We've got your okay. Oh, it's looking not stark, but not coloured in your space. You've got the white light on. Is that because you've got the windows open?
It is because I've got the windows open. I, I I don't know if I'm in a dark and moody mood today. I might. Well, maybe I should be in a dark and moody mood. It can be addressed.
No, it looks good. That's okay. It's
Oh,
fine.
really?
Just looked different. I
Okay.
was like, oh, that's different. I wasn't a criticism. It was just an observation.
We can go with. We'll put
That's
a
all
bit
right.
of red on.
Yeah, look
Bit
at
of
that.
red.
There's a little bit of red. Gosh, it's been such a long time, Ty. I can't think how long it's been. It must have been 2, 3 months. When was before Christmas?
I was going to say, I think it's before Christmas. I think it is. Yeah. Which
Wow.
is, we kind of think, oh, that's not that long ago, but you suddenly realise that we're kind of almost halfway through March.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
like,
In fact, because that's right, because we were going to do something with you and the Midge project. That's right, and yeah, yeah, events overtook.
yeah. I mean, I'm still up for it if you want to, but it's completely
Okay.
up to you. Your call completely. I mean, to be fair, there's some interesting stories in there and tech stories, but it's completely your call.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Complete.
that sounds great. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Absolutely.
How have you
Right.
been?
Okay. Yeah. Post Nam was a bit of a car crash because it was just it was. Just, I got back. I was all right for a bit, then just got really sick and just couldn't really
Yeah.
operate. I actually took time off, which is not usually like me, but it was like I couldn't operate technical equipment at all. It just wasn't feasible.
Okay,
So I went home,
that's
went to
bad.
bed, and then the family got ill, and then it was just, it was just endless, and then various other things, and
Yeah.
all of that stuff, tends to, yeah. But yeah, feel back on track now, and yeah,
Yay.
just got the studio all up and running again. So it's all just sort of ready to film. So like I said, I just did the Mini Brute 2, which is a good little synth actually, really not bad at
Yeah,
all.
you know, I mean, I mean, like everyone, I've got one of the original mini brutes, and I've got a Matrix brute, and so I kind of keep looking at it, but yeah,
It's
I mean,
very
if I'm
different.
honest, oh,
Who's
okay,
up? We have let me see, I just need to scroll up a bit. We've got Steve Hillier.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, all right. It's been an interesting old day so far, I think.
Okay. That
But this
sounds
is the
good.
highlight.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Well, I don't know if I'm glad to hear that. It makes me feel better. I don't know about anybody else, but yeah. Excellent. So we have Ty, we have Steve, and we're waiting for Rich, but that's all right. We're a few minutes in, and I know Rich has been busy, so we've got a team of people we haven't seen for a reasonable amount of time. Of course, we saw you last week, Steve, but before that, for a while. Excellent.
Yeah. It's been a really nice sort of start to the year, quite frankly. Apart from all the snow and ice last week, but one of the things that's made today interesting is I've set aside some time to finish this little project for a singer who's going to be on a BBC reality show that's coming out next month. But the vocals haven't arrived, so I've got a track that's basically ready to go, but with no vocals. I might as well be in the Happy Mondays in 1992 at the moment. So yeah. Hence, this being the highlight.
Ah, okay. So it's that sort of waiting. Is that because they're not
Yeah.
recorded, or they just haven't been FTP'd?
My understanding is that they've been recorded. They're just being comped right now. And it seems like they've been being comped all morning. I'm just sort of thinking, at least I'm pleased that's not my job. But I would really like to know just how much comping is required for this vocal. I'll know pretty soon.
You'll know shortly, and then you'll make
Yeah.
the call. Actually, can you just send me the original stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I have strict instructions so far. I want no EQ. I want no compression. I want no pitch correction. I just want the sound of raw talent.
Yeah, that's dangerous. It really means very little talent, or they'll send it you auto-tune with EQ, with compression. I ask every time, and I kind of get it once every 5 times.
We're losing your network a little bit there, Ty. I don't know if there's a I don't know if you've got a thing that you can do, because I remember there was something, but you may already have done it.
No, have I got time to just go and reboot?
Yeah, I think so. That's no problem. Funnily enough, that's what I had to do. Everything just went wrong. The network just kept dropping out, and I was thinking, oh, I hope that's me. Well, I mean, I didn't want it to be me, but it was me, so I managed to reboot, and that was all right. So Ty can come back in a bit. So just wait for Rich to to come in, see if he's while we look at Ty's studio there. You got some catching up to do here, Steve. There's a lot of blank wall in your studio, and a lot of window.
Oh, Matt, what it is all surrounding me, I've got keyboards and synths, but this is the only place I can stick the laptop, which connects to the Ethernet cable, which connects to the main socket in the wall. Your idea, Nick, and it's worked really well. So yeah, you've got a nice view here of a window out onto the sea and a cupboard. So sorry.
That's fine. I'm just thinking,
Right.
I can't really see much behind me. I've just got that's all just back.
Yeah.
Nothing really to see there apart from a bunch of wires and some dark spaces with cameras, because I was filming the Mini Brute 2 review this week.
Oh yeah.
And or was it last week? Last week, and published it this week, and it's good.
You enjoyed it?
I did, yeah. It's a good synth. Ah, right. I see there is a Mr. Richard Hilton there. Fresh, with no audio from Rich, though, at the moment. So you might want to look at that. I know it's been a while, but yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? It might be, Rich, I don't know if can you hear me? It might be that your audio interface has not been set in if you set it after you loaded this page, then it might not have picked it up. So you might need to quit and restart and check to see if your audio is being routed in. That's the usual thing. But that's all I can say, because I'm not there. There he goes. Right. Just me and you then, Steve, now.
Ah, excellent.
It'll be fine. I wonder if I can't tell whether Ty is there or not, or whether he's rebooted, because it freezes the picture when you reboot. So
I'm just wondering if we've got a moment today, we could mention the news about the NME. Did you see that?
yeah, I've actually got that up. Yeah, because I saw that.
Right.
We will mention that. Yeah, because it's kind of, that's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. I have a fair few sort of journalist friends from the 90s who worked from like in sounds and in NME and in Melody Maker, and I kind of get the impression for those guys the moment has gone. In fact, it went a long time ago, but they're still really sad to see the end of, you know, print, I suppose, for weeklies. Although something that came up which I thought was very interesting was that Kerrang still survives and apparently is thriving. So the rock market, or the market for rock journalism, I suppose, still exists. It's just everyone else really who's getting their journalism online and essentially for free.
So I think I've just discovered that there's an issue with the live site, so I just need to
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
There he is.
Hi.
There he is. Hey, Rich, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too.
Except Steve's lower third says Rich Hilton on it too.
No, it's only when as soon as you get to be
I see
the talent, it switches. It's kind of
I got it.
Way. There we go. Oh yeah, that's already. I think that's better, Ty. I can't tell.
I think we're promoting a hairstyle.
Yeah, we seem to be.
That.
This is what happens, folks. If you do too much live broadcasting,
You play around with patch cords for too long.
Yeah, but with this hairstyle, we're clearly the coolest men on the internet, right, guys?
Yeah, probably. So, Ty, you're very. Do you usually come in on your mic on your mic on your laptop? Because that's what's happening. It sounds like it's very roomy, so I don't know whether or not there's.
No, it's not meant to be.
Okay, well, we could just see how it goes. I think that's probably the best thing to do because you've rebooted your router and there's not much more that can be done other than that.
Yeah, but, sorry. I mean, this is meant to be picked up. Is it being picked up on this mic? Or I hope it's not doing.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It is being picked up on that mic. It's just a bit grungy. Excuse me. That's better. It might just be the noise cancelling kind of thing going on. All right then. Well, why don't we hit it and see what happens? Right. Stand by, everybody. Here comes the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 526, recording today, live Wednesday, the 7th of March. That's not the Ides. The Ides are the other end of March, aren't they? I think, 15th. Anyway. 15th, okay, that's the other, it's the middle of March. All right, thank you very much, Rich, for that classical bit of ingested information there. It's not about classical history, this podcast, it's actually about music technology, and it's to do with controllers, synthesizers, drum machines, software, all that kind of stuff, all the kind of technology and the social aspects, the business aspects, whatever you want to do, or whatever we feel that is the topic to talk about on the week. We want to say hello to everybody in the YouTube chat room. Thank you very much for joining us. Also, our IRC people, you can get to that via sonicstate.com/live, and that will give you all the information you need to know. Also want to say thank you very much to Isotope, who are sponsoring the show by providing a prize of Ozone 8 a little bit later on. That'll be about halfway through. Show runs to about an hour and 10, so stay tuned, grab a cup of tea and enjoy your time with us, I hope. Right, so let's start off with let's say hello to Mr. Rich Hilton, who's there in Connecticut. We haven't seen him for a while. Rich has been around the world touring, but also working in the studio on a project. I've seen you've been posting pictures of various working with Tony Levin, right? Awesome.
Yes, we had Tony Levin in. And
wow.
It's what a great honor to have Tony and David Torn and Richie Stanijev, and we're having a blast. And I'm getting to work with people I've known my whole life who I couldn't wait to do stuff with, and it's really going very, very well. I'm very excited about it.
Excellent. So is this a sort of mid-project break, or is it a kind of, have you done your...
No, as soon as we're done, I'm getting right back in.
Right, cool. So can you tell us what it is, or is it still, is it a secret under wraps type of thing?
It's something I'm producing. It's pretty obvious if you look at my Facebook page what it is. It's a project with an artist whose first English song I mixed a couple of years ago. He's a very well respected artist in Pakistan.
Ah, okay.
And we're making not a world music album together, and having a great time doing it.
That sounds really good fun.
It is. It's pretty exciting stuff, and I'm really feeling good about it right now.
That's
and
awesome.
I sort of had a lot of my own stuff to do now, so I'm
excellent.
kind of enjoying that.
I didn't realize it was that you were producing. That's brilliant, because I guess that sort of work doesn't come along all that often. So good on you.
That's right. That's right, and I'm very thankful for it.
Excellent. Oh well. Pleased to hear that, Rich. That's lovely to have you aboard.
Thank
anyway, you. We'll also join Mr. Ty Unwin. Now, Mr. Ty Unwin, we haven't had him on for ages. Ty, of course, media composer, ludicrously busy media. In fact, I think your last words were to me, it's going to be 3 months before I even get a night off. So I guess we must be getting towards the end of that. Is that what's happening?
Not quite the end of, but yeah, I mean, just enough to get a break. So yeah, but previous afternoons have just been impossible. So yeah, but so Wednesday evenings, Thursday mornings, Thursday afternoons. But no, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Battling along.
Excellent. And of course, before the last thing that we were going to do around about Christmas was talk to you about the Mid-Year album, which came out just before Christmas, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll still hopefully get a chance to do that. But that's done well. That's gone really well, and we've done some live bits and bobs. We were on Chris Evans on Radio 2 on Friday, and we've done a couple of Radio 2 things, and the single was in the playlist for a month, and so it's doing well. Yeah, it's
all of those things. How was the live thing? That is a massive audience. Did you? I saw you posted on Facebook saying what happens when it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and your mind goes blank. Did you have one of those moments?
I had absolutely one of those moments. One of the songs, it comes to a big climactic moment, and I have to sit there and lead it all into one huge E minor chord. Except just as I was about to put my fingers down, I just had complete brain freeze.
Couldn't remember what an E minor was.
I couldn't remember what chord it was. All I know is I had to play a chord very loudly, and my head was just swearing constantly in my head. So I played a chord which wasn't necessarily completely the correct chord, and then corrected it within a crotchet. But the reality is there was one crotchet of complete crap. But there we go. We've all been there, and we'll all be there again. But at least it was only 9.5 million listeners, so it was genuinely. And I mean, people were very but most people didn't notice it. But you know what it's like when you know you didn't have a good day at the office. It was one of those. Fine, it was fine. But as Nick Beggs, I think we know Nick from Bass Player Supreme. He basically said to me, "Yeah, you won't make that mistake again." And I won't, believe me. As I said, I'm going to have E minor tattooed on the back of my hand because, but there we go. These things happen.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear it went all right. And that sounds like fun. I mean, it's very different to what you're normally doing. So, I mean, it must be quite nice to mix it up a bit and get out into the world and do that kind of live stuff. So,
what daylight? I mean, yeah, I struggle with daylight, obviously, but it's it's fine. I can get by. No, it's fun, and the people, and Midge is great to work with, and he's great fun, and also the musician, couple of musicians that we've got together to do these little acoustic things with. They're fantastic. So they're really good fun to be with. So it's great. It's really good.
That's the chat room are telling me that a crotchet of complete crap is a potential candidate for the show title there. I wonder how that would go. I'm worried about our PG-13 rating but we'll see how it goes. And
I censored it. Mine was a censored version in the first place.
Okay, well maybe we'll be all right then. And also we have Mr. Steve Hillier, educator, producer, mix engineer in waiting. Is that right? I was just going to say, you were saying before the show that you're waiting for a vocal to come in so you can complete an arrangement.
Yeah. I think compared to the other two guys, I've had a much more relaxed day today. In fact, actually, I can tell you I spent most of this morning, when I knew that the vocal that I have to mix wasn't going to show up, down at the Buddhist Centre in Brighton. So I'm kind of zened at the moment, although I'm convinced that my first tattoo is going to say, crotchet of crap. That's definitely for me.
Excellent. CCC.
And there goes the PG.
Yeah, that's all right. I think we can say that word. I just don't know about actually the title of it. Anyway, let's get on to matters, more of the news thing. So here, what about this, eh? This is Roland dropping their new TR-8S, which basically takes the TR-8.
I'm super excited to talk about the TR-8S Rhythm Performer, our latest flagship drum machine. It has a lot of the DNA of our TR-8 drum machine, which we came out with a few years ago, but there's been a number of enhancements made to it that we've gotten from customers and artists and people that have used the TR-8 and have loved it, but had some great ideas for what could be done to the next model.
That includes sampling.
Let's take a look at the design of the TR-8S. It's been refined, it looks really modern and timeless. It looks great in the studio or on stage. It has a flatter profile so that it's great for playing live. It has multicolored faders that you can customize. The I/O section has been expanded so that you have 8 analog outputs, SD card for sample import and backup file storage. There's the USB, standard MIDI I/O, and a trigger output so you control analog gear. And there's also a stereo external input for external signals. It has all of our circuit model drum machines built into it, such as the 808, 909, 707, 727, 606, and some custom-made circuit modeled sounds that you can only get on the TR-8S. It also comes with a bunch of pre-made samples, and then it also has sample import, so you can import your own sounds onto the unit itself.
Right. I mean, this is actually quite a long video, so I won't play it all, which is what I usually say. But this is actually quite big news. This does two things for me. I mean, first of all, it kind of it signifies that Roland are going. They're kind of going after the Electron market, because there's a lot of motion control on here, and the idea of it being much more performance based. With the sample playback, I think there's up to 600 seconds of sample memory in it, with 180 seconds maximum per phrase. I don't know about the loading and saving. Obviously, you can't sample directly into it, but these are all things that are starting to make it. And in fact, they did a whole series of videos with. Oh, that's not working. Oh, they did a whole series of videos with female artists in Berlin, where there's sort of quite hardcore techno stuff. And club-based stuff, but I don't know. What does anybody think about this? I mean, it feels like it's quite a big deal. Let's start with you, Ty.
I'm slightly mixed feelings. I mean, it doesn't. I've got a TR8, and TR8's great for what it does, but I've got reams of drum machines. A lot of them do sampling, so personally, it's not any interest to me personally. But I think as long as it's done in a clever way, and it doesn't feel like the sampling is bolted to a TR8, then I think it's, I think it's a winner. I think the only slight issue I have is that for me, all of my gear tends to be centered around the fact that it does one or two things really well. Do you know what I mean? I don't really see when I choose gear, I don't choose jack of all trades. I tend to choose stuff that's good at one thing really well. And that's why the TR8 worked for me, because it just did the TR stuff. And things like the MPX, the MPCX is great because it just kind of does sampling well. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah. I think it's how the whole TR stroke sampling bit integrates. And if it integrates well, then it's a simple interface, let's be honest. And I think whatever you want to say about the Electron stuff, and I've got Electron stuff, I've got machine drum and a rhythm and all those kind of things. They're great, but the interface is very, we keep saying this, it's very individual, it's very peculiar, it's very them. And if you don't get your head into that, it can be quite difficult to work with. Whereas the TR interface is really easy interface. And if they can do that side with the sampling as well, I think it's onto a winner. And all this rubbish that goes on about it not sounding like real analog, and I'm not going to get into that again, but it's all just codswallop. I mean, kind of in the terms of the mix, it sounds just like a TR-808 or a 909 or whatever, because we all know, the people that know that every TR-808 and every TR-909 sounded completely different anyway. They all did. I've never seen two 909s or 808s or 606 that sound exactly the same. So whichever one they happen to model it on, it sounds like that. And that combined with sampling, great. Not for me at the moment, but I think it'll be a success.
Yeah, it's interesting something's coming back at me. I think that's you, Ty. Hold on, I'll just hold that. It's interesting that they've gone for this, but I actually think that they've, from what I've seen of the videos, I was trying to play that, but I seem to have lost my web browser page. That they've really kind of made the leap into this performance mode, and not only that, but the marketing for this, they've really dropped the cheese and they've gone for the kind of like, here's what people can do with it. I don't know what you think about that, Steve. I mean, it seems like quite a big sea change generally, just in the way that Roland do things. I mean, one thing that's really interesting, they've gone for a sort of all-female cast, which I think is a really good bit of marketing, and also just good to sort of pick up the baton from Moog as well, sort of redressing. I mean, some people are getting a bit uppity that it somehow doesn't need to be that, but I think good stuff.
Well, I mean, I saw the marketing videos, and I thought, it felt to me like it should have felt bold to have three, female creators working with the machine. But I must admit, it just felt right. You know what I mean? It didn't feel bold at all. It was eye-catching as well, and although the music wasn't really my kind of thing, I did think it showcased the TR-8S really well, and it certainly got me excited. And the reason I'm excited about this is, this first reason might seem a bit shallow, but I think it looks great. I think it looks Well, no, for a start. I mean, this is shallow, but I was really tempted to get a System 8 until I saw it in the flesh, and it looked like something off the Borg from Star Trek. It was just so green and black, and you know, those are sort of death colours for me, so I didn't get it in the end. But anyway, back to this machine. It looks really exciting. It looks sexy, and I'm thinking of it in terms of how it would appear on stage. And on stage, it's going to be interesting. It's going to capture the audience's imagination, especially in the smaller venue. And then the next thing is that Roland seems to have been focusing here on the performance aspect of this machine, something I think that Ty just touched on. I'm not quite sure what that means at this stage, because I was trying to find one of these machines earlier today, but I never actually got to see one. But I've certainly done my time with the sound of Roland drum machines. I think we all have, quite frankly. But if there's a performance aspect to it, something kind of new, then that could be tremendously exciting, and certainly something that would interest me. The last bit, though, the thing that I think has sold me on this machine is the use of samples, and what sounds like very long samples. So it could be possible to use this like an MPC in some ways. It's not clear to me how that actually works. But, you know, if it would be possible to, say, trigger a sample that's 30 seconds long, so it could essentially be an entire verse.
Yeah, up to 180 seconds, I think.
Right. So if you could trigger it, so it's yeah, I'm assuming that means that the sample will sustain for that period. It surely must do. That now makes things very interesting for me. So yeah, so I'm opening my Bitcoin wallet probably later this week.
Ah, okay, interesting. Rich, I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether you're a drum machine kind of guy. I know you've tried out some of the Electron stuff, but it does seem that Roland have actually, you know, they're actually going for, you know, that whole vibe, and they really are sort of going, we want some of that, and they've made a much cooler marketing campaign for it, and it's quite interesting that they've gone for that.
I love the look of this thing. It looked like it was fun to operate, sounded great, and was incredibly versatile. And for the money, it seems like a really, really great product to me. And it occurs to me that we're living in a time of where there's a wealth of really, really great drum machines out there, and they're all really strong in different ways. I would include the Electron product, the Tempest, the Arturia product. They all have really, really good sounding, really, really good strengths, and seem like they'd be fun to operate for the most part. I know the Electron is a little different than the rest, and they're all a little different from each other anyway. But a lot of really great drum machines, and I think this is one of them. And I think it has a list price of $700 or €700.
Yeah, $699. I think. Yeah,
pretty cheap for all the stuff it does. And
well, it's bang on the Digitac price point.
Okay, good. Well, I think it's a nice form factor. It looks like it's probably well built. If I know Roland, yeah, it's got pretty lights, and that's cool. And they use them in creative ways, and everybody's doing it. So that's cool. I liked it.
Yeah, we don't know what sort of manipulation there is of the samples. I think the information that I got from the Roland site, though, has been updated. Apparently, like with all of the bigger IRA range, not the boutique IRAs, the bigger ones that have an internal sample rate of 96K. So I think you can bring in 96K samples so that if you're pitching them down, then you're going to get less aliasing, and that's going to make it more useful. I don't know whether it's got time stretch or any of that stuff. I would like to say, though, we're hoping to get David Ireland is going to be here on Fridays, bringing one down and doing a sort of demo for us, and then hopefully we'll get a chance to review something in the near future. But it does look like a pretty cool thing. Rich, yeah.
It's not, if I may say, it's not much of a display, especially as compared to things like Machina and things like that. In other words, if you do bring samples in, there's not a heck of a lot you're going to be able to do with it on any kind of screen that I saw on that piece of hardware. That's
very true. Yeah, I mean, it's got the, let's see if we can find, I should have the TRA, hold on.
You know, short of like ASCII and numerical inputs.
Let me see.
I think Ty is speaking, and he's.
Oh, is he? I do beg your pardon, Ty. Sorry. Will you come in?
No, sorry. I said they'll probably bring out an editor for it. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, they're quite good at bringing out link up to their stuff. So I have a feeling if they're going to do that, they will bring out some kind of import.
But it seems to me your Machina and MPC style people are giving you some visual reference on the box itself that enables you to do some kinds of sample editing right there where you have.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
views.
I agree completely.
So,
I'd rather have it.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it in the box. But
yes, you've got, but I mean, it's an improvement over the original TR8 because it does have a little two line LCD, which is we didn't get, I don't believe, on the original TR8. A couple other things it's got up to, I think it's 4 stereo outs, which can be configured to be trigger outs, so you can actually use it. You could use it as like at the heart of some kind of modular thing where if you wanted to send trigger, you presumably get clock divisions and set triggers like that way. Also, it's going to mean that you're going to be able to bust things out in separate fashion. So, you know, like we know, kick, snare, and then the high bits, and then you've still got 2 pairs left, which you could be for samples. So, I mean, if like you say, Steve, the ability to play back longer samples, not sure if it does stereo or not yet, is good, and it doesn't take an awfully long time to load off the SD card, because I've seen that in the past where it is actually quite a long time. The stuff that Roland uses quite a long load time off the SD. Then that could make it really interesting as a point. I mean, I don't know if that's probably something that excites you from that point of view.
Yes, it certainly does. But you're absolutely right. I've had problems with loading samples off SD cards. It just takes forever. But then again, this was a while ago. Maybe the Roland have cracked this technology. I do have 2 little questions though. According to the tech specs that I've seen, we've got all of the TR drum machines, but no CR78, which seems like a strange omission. It would be
maybe they're saving that for an update. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that would be really nice. And the other thing that I thought was interesting was that they've included the sample-based drum machines, the 707s on there, I think, but they're describing it on the spec sheet as using ACB technology. So I'd be really curious to know how that works with these samples, if you know what I mean. So we're not just getting the raw data from the original samples. Is there going to be some sort of modeling of the preamps or the op amps?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, as I say, it comes with 300 samples, so maybe some of those drum machines are included in those 300 samples. So, you know, the stuff that's sample based maybe comes off that. I actually don't know the answer to that, but that's something that hopefully we'll get to clarify with David, who's coming down, like I say, on Friday, to give us a sort of run through. But it feels like, I mean, not only that, but you look at the launch videos, the sort of Berlin videos, they've dropped the cheese, which is actually quite a big. I mean, that's a big change in itself. Just the way they're marketing it is very different to what Roland usually do. It's sort of it's a very European flavored marketing thing, and I don't know if they're maybe driving this time. I mean, I know it's a bit kind of inside business, but it's an interesting shift to me, and hopefully that.
I do wonder whether maybe this is an example of Roland getting their confidence back. You know, after so many years of releasing, particularly synthesizers and stuff that've been, to be fair, not particularly great. Over the last few years, things have got really exciting again. I hope that maybe it's being reflected in the marketing. Now Roland are, you know, a force to be reckoned with, like they were in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, hopefully so. I mean, I do recommend that if you go and check the Roland website, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Berlin sessions, and they're all pretty, you know, they're quite hardcore, and some of them, like you say, are not maybe the music that I'd go for, but they're very Berlin, which is, I guess, what they're supposed to be, because they're the Berlin sessions, and that, you know, it's just, yeah, I'm excited to check it out anyway. So we'll see. Let's just have a quick interjection now. Let's just have a word from our sponsors. Why not? This is Isotope Ozone, which is the mastering suite. Ozone 8 is the current version. Got all this intelligent machine learning, which takes the kind of the learning of the machine, the cloud or whatever, and also combines it with the particular track that you're working on to give suggestions of where you might want to start in terms of your mastering session, and then kind of builds a chain that it thinks is going to get you somewhere near you where you want to go. There's also the tonal balance, which, as you can see there, gives you the spectral representation, visual representation of what kind of energy you want in each of the bands. Very useful, actually, and a kind of alternative to just using your ears, which, as we know, can sometimes let us down. Certainly mine do. We've got the ability to control other instances of Neutron 2 and also Ozone 8 from within the same session. So if you fix a mix issue, you're still working in the kind of mastering environment. You've also got the ability to compare and contrast up to 10 tracks and sections of tracks so that you can see exactly where you are in terms of maybe the thing you're trying to get near to. If you've got reference tracks, very powerful stuff. And there's a whole bunch of things in here that if you're into mastering and you're looking for something that's going to be able to help you improve your mix and get it to sound the way you want it, then Ozone is definitely the way forward to go. If you want to go try it out, go to isotope.com/ozone and you'll be able to get hold of a demo copy, which I think lasts 10 days, so do try it out. I've also got the Spectral Shaper as well, which is allows you to tone the spectrum frequencies, particular mid-side option point. There's just so much to it. Anyway, I won't play anymore. That's a very long video, but I want to say we've also got a competition this week. If you want to enter and win the chance of winning a copy of Ozone 8, it's a Twitter competition. What you need to do is tweet the hashtag Mastering Suite, that's one word, so Mastering Suite, and the hashtag Ozone 8 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's the hashtag Mastering Suite, the hashtag Ozone 8 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And that'll get you entered in the competition. And we have a winner from last week. Last week's winner is somebody called Koz, K-O-Z, and their Twitter handle is @Cosmic. KOZMYK, and they tweeted the hashtags, which was I think Future of Mastering and Ozone 8. So if you want to get in touch, Koz, please do, and we will hook you up with your copy of Ozone 8. Thank you very much to Isotope for their continued sponsorship of the show. Sorry, Rich, I don't know whether you were trying to come in there. I turned you down because I heard some background noise, and I'm just. Now I've got faders, the power's gone to my head, and I keep realising that perhaps I need to fade. Was there anything you wanted to add? I should give you the opportunity just in case I
No. I had added my last point, which was that it visually just didn't quite live up to some of the competition, but in general, it looked like a great product.
Yeah, well, I think one thing I would say is if we look at the actual control surface of it, there is quite a lot of, because each of the channels, lots of people seem to be playing on the faders, because I think you've got up to 11 instruments. So I think instruments can also be configured to have an external input as well, so they can be processed via the effects. Each of the tracks has its own effect, but then there's the mastering effect, the master effects as well, so much more DSP going on there. And each of the tracks has 3 knobs, so there's more control. I mean, you know, if you were to make a direct comparison with Digitact, then there's more surface to play with. But yeah, you're right, it's not up to the Machina standard.
A lot of stuff to grab. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of stuff to grab. And that's one thing that in the Berlin videos you see that that's what seems to be going on. People have these minimal arrangements and they're whacking the faders up, and it really makes. And the other thing that was in it that was cool is there are 8 pattern variations per pattern, so you can get you can get a lot of stuff in any particular pattern and then switch with it. So, you know, as well as arranging songs, you can change pattern. I don't know whether changing patterns is the way that you would do it, because we have to find out about the load time and stuff like that. Anyway, that's enough of that. How about this then? Did anyone see, I guess if you weren't in the States, you might not have seen this, but this was awesome. This is Charles Hazelwood. I'll play a little bit of it. Hopefully it'll have some audio, or it might not. Seems to not, but there you go. But this is that's probably good, because then it won't get busted. This is the introduction to the minimalism, tones and drones and arpeggios, the magic of minimalism. And Charles Hazelwood's a really interesting composer and whatnot. And this is, you see Will Gregory there, Adrian Utley involved in the band, and I think they're playing Terry Riley's In C in that session. I mean, what looks like an indoor swimming pool, which is a really cool place to have a studio. And yes, it just goes on to talk about all of the influences, the way that whole kind of started out. And I just thought it was brilliant, because a light bulb went on for me, because I was thinking, oh, right. So, you know, all of that kind of repetitive pattern and the polyrhythmic stuff all seemed to emerge out of that period of the late 50s and early 60s, San Francisco and New York. And I just thought, awesome. And I'm going to come to you, Ty, because I know that you studied a lot of this. And I haven't. And I know that you, when we were talking pre-show, you said it's right in my part. And I know Rich did as well. So, Ty, did you watch the documentary?
Have I watched it? I've watched it. I've lost track of how many times I've watched it. Yeah. I mean, to say I got slightly excited when I saw this was on is putting it mildly. I mean, it describes my value. As you said, I mean, I studied this for years, basically, when I was at music college, and I kind of specialised in this area. Started off with John Cage and then went all through Lamont Young and Terry Riley and Steve Reich and Philip Glass and to John Adams and all of that. And so this, for me, style of music was essentially kind of what helped form my the sound that I write with now. Because up until this kind of, until I went to college, basically, minimalism didn't really mean anything to me, and I was really into the late romantics like Rachmaninoff and kind of impressionism with Debussy, and so it was all very melodic and very gestural and very huge and grand and whatever. And then when I went and started studying, this was the first thing that I really latched onto. Realized that minimalism was essentially where I needed to go and what I wanted to get involved in. So for the last that's depressing, 32 years, I've been kind of following this kind of more minimalist kind of lilt. And so watching this documentary, it's for people that don't know about this side of things, is absolutely fascinating. You come across realizing that Lamont Young is bonkers, is absolutely not with us, and completely, absolutely not on this planet. And then and then Terry Riley is a really lovely guy. I worked briefly with Terry Riley when I was a student. He was doing some pieces at Huddersfield, and I was something to do with the tech team there. And so and he's the nicest guy, and his music is just, it's very easy to use words like hypnotic or, you know, kind of beautiful, and it is, his music is amazing. So I can't wait for this is only episode 1. We've then got about Steve Reich and Philip Glass. So I literally cannot wait. So anyone that can watch it, whether it be via YouTube or on, I think BBC is still on iPlayer, you've got to watch it, because although you'd think there's no direct link with electronic music.
Totally not the case.
The moment you start hearing the processes, you suddenly realise that the way they started is absolutely the start of what we call kind of electronic music, using tape loops and sequencers and phasing and drifting, and it's everything that we now do on a regular basis in the studio with sequencers and effects. It was all started back in the late 80s and early 60s. So it's a fantastic program.
Yeah, really good. I know, Rich, you also studied a lot of, I know you studied, we've talked about the music concrete stuff that you studied because you studied music as well. I mean, I just thought it was, and I hadn't made those links, and I feel really kind of ignorant, and I'm glad I watched it. I don't know if you've ever been able to, because you're in the States, so you probably can't get it, but maybe you can.
I did see it, but on some level, I want to say the less said about minimalism, the better.
Hey.
Nothing much to see here. Move on. No, but seriously, folks. But I love some of this music. I don't love others of this music, but I love some of this music. In particular, Steve Reich's ensemble pieces really, really capture me. And it's funny because when you get to that, it's not so much minimalism at all. It actually more kind of closely resembles Magma to me. Christian Vander used to do these same kind of things with arrangements where the arrangements would evolve as they groove slowly with the introduction of individual themes and the sort of replacement of other individual themes. And it had a sort of a combination of very organic groove and also a melodic sophistication that just took place over a slightly longer period of time than most things do. But it didn't in and of itself represent itself. It didn't represent to me as minimal in any way. Actually, it's actually incredibly involved, as contrasted with some of the other Terry Riley pieces, who I also love, where they are, in fact, much simpler in terms of the kinds of elements that come and go and the number of them that occur at any one time. Love the stuff. Very interested in it. Very interesting. I had the great privilege to work with Michael Reichman on David Bowie's record in 1992, and it was a revelation to me to watch him work and see what those guys actually do. He was sort of Philip Glass's sidekick at the time, and really, really fascinating to work and watch him work. and helping
Yeah,
them
I can
become
imagine.
some
I mean, because
class.
you know, one can assume, or one might assume, that you know, minimalism equals less musical ability. But these guys were studying at the highest level and kind of came up with these concepts out of their knowledge of the regular stuff. So it's just really interesting, isn't it? Steve Hillier, I mean, have you had a chance to see it?
Yes, I did. I saw it on Sunday, and by sheer coincidence, last week I was actually discussing minimalism with my students at the university down here. It's fascinating music. I've come to it much later than I think Ty and Rich have. In fact, I've only really been exposed to this in the last sort of 5 or 10 years. But there's so much to learn from this, and something that was mentioned in the program, which I thought was fascinating, was how I think Lamonte Young was writing music that required you to listen over an extended period of time. So a piece could last an hour, or it could be 3 hours, or it could be much longer. And in that period, there wasn't necessarily a great deal going on, at least by traditional standards, but your ears and your expectations would acclimatize to music evolving over that longer period, and you would be hearing things in a way that you wouldn't get from regular well, you wouldn't get it from pop music at all, but you probably wouldn't get it from much classical music either. And that was fascinating. But one thing I just wanted to mention, which is not strictly minimalism as sort of defined as a historical period, or these particular composers, but it's the idea of being minimal, if you know what I mean. Having less going on in an arrangement. That's how the discussion actually came up with me and my students last week. And I think there's a tendency for many electronic music composers, especially those who work almost entirely in a DAW, to get so much activity going on in their arrangement that the impact of any individual sound is kind of lost. There's, you know, multiple bass lines, multiple pad sounds, there's layers, there's percussion bits coming in and out all over the place. If that sounds like something that's happening in, you know, your own arrangements, I would strongly recommend that if you watch this program, and just strip your arrangements back to essentially the minimum that's required in order to get the musical effect that you want. And then I found in my own work, the music takes off in a way that it doesn't when there's more going on. It's the whole less is more cliche, but it is, like all cliches, it is actually based on truth.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't know, Ty. I mean, because you're composing for media on a daily basis, and in terms of, you know, the pressure and time pressure, I mean, we're all guilty of it, aren't we? We just go, I know, if I just stick another thing in there, it'll feel like there's a lot going on. I mean, do you find you've got the discipline to kind of apply those rules even in the heat of battle, as it were?
Do you mean to pare things back?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have no time. So basically, if I can get away with doing less, I'll absolutely get away with doing less. The reality is, though, a lot of the times when you want the big moments, that basically means scale. And the moment you introduce scale, that essentially means layers. And the moment you have layers, that means time. So it's almost like when I work on a program, I go through and I sit there and spot the programs to kind of almost look at the areas where minimal is the way to go, and they're the areas I kind of dream of and leave the last, and I start with the big areas because they're the ones that was going to take the time. So quite often you can work on a section, you know, a piece of music that's like 3 minutes long, which you know that you can, less is more, and you can work with maybe just a piano or just a few synth lines and some strings, and it's fine. But then you also know that then later on in the film there's going to be a 20-second bit where it's absolutely full on all guns blazing orchestral, and then you look at the, you know, kind of the track listing, and you're suddenly into hundreds of layers just for that one moment. And quite often just to do those 20 seconds takes 10 times longer than doing the 3-minute piece of just the more minimal stuff. So I want to do the more minimal stuff. I'll be honest with you, all of my best scores, I think, are the more minimal scores, and all the stuff that I kind of do because that's what directors and producers want, tends to be the big organs blazing stuff. And unfortunately for me, I kind of have a bit of a name for doing the organs blazing stuff, so that's what a lot of people want. But
that's really interesting, because That is interesting, because a lot of people, myself included, particularly, if we're talking in the compositional environment that we're in, you would tend to kind of loop over a specific section and pile ideas in it and just get them all out of your head and then see what happens when you take them apart. So you almost start with too much and then you have to, but stripping it down again. But it's sort of finding all of that stuff out that's difficult. I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
People have different ways. There's a songwriter I know who, kind of we briefly worked together a few years ago, and he works that way. He works very much in terms of, imagine if he's an artist, he throws all of the paint at the wall, all the colours, everything, and then sits there with a knife and scrapes it all away until he's left with what comes out. Whereas I start off with a blank sheet and I basically go layer on layer and build and build and build, but know when to turn and go, okay, that's enough.
Wow,
so it's just
lucky you.
There's just building on that. There's I think a famous saying by, oh God, my wife would know, Chanel or something. It's something to do with, you should, when you're getting dressed for an evening, you should always take off the last piece of jewellery you put on, which I think is quite a nice little maxim also for writing and production.
It's a similar kind of vibe, I suppose, in many ways, yeah.
Yeah. There was just one other thing I wanted to throw in on this, which was, I suppose, a little aside. Considering what we do here on Sonic Talk and Sonicstate, very often we're listening to amazing musical instruments in isolation, and we're talking about the depths of the oscillators and the tone of the filters and all this kind of thing. I think it would be really great if, when we come to make our arrangements, we let these, and I know a lot of us do, but we let these instruments shine. So they're not buried under lots of effects or multiple, lots of instrumentation that covers up the greatness of these instruments. If we spent the money and the time on learning these machines, let's hear them in the arrangements.
That's an interesting
point,
everybody. Actually. Thank you very much. I don't know, Rich, I mean, you're producing at the moment. I mean, are you finding that are you controlling the depth and the layers within the arrangements of these songs, or are you just letting the artist get on with it and making it work? I mean, how are you, do you apply any of those techniques to the work that you're currently doing?
Absolutely. Every single minute of every single day I'm working on it. We're at a point right now where there's a lot recorded. There's a certain amount that needs yet to be recorded, and most of that is either vocals or me doing keyboards, because I played keyboards on the basic tracks, but I really haven't played any keyboards a little bit since. And I'm having to make decisions about whether or not to replace any or some percentage of what's there in any section that exists now, or whether to supplement it in some way. And I, first of all, support wholeheartedly all of the statements that Ty and Steve have made on this subject so far. And I would say that none of us is going to ever advocate for loading anything up too much. So you're never trying to, or even wanting to, allow yourself to load something up too much. And it's easy to do now that we've got all of this incredible resource at our fingertips all the time. You can load it up as much as you want anytime. And that said, we also all know that there are moments where being small is the thing, and there are moments where being big is the thing. And there is also the fact that if you're going to be big all the time, it doesn't mean anything anymore. But if you contrast it with some small, you get the desired result. And we all, you're always balancing the overall presentation and the size of the ensemble at any given moment, and what kinds of elements you're using and what kind of contrasts you're trying to highlight and use to make this thing sound unique. And so right now in my process with this artist, I'm all about making this project sound as unique as possible all the time, and not to let it sound either stale or predictable very much, although that within that context, it's a project of songs, and songs do certain things, and they tend to fall into one of a number of arrangements, although we're even straining on that, because he's come in with some very interesting arrangement ideas, and I think I like them. And they're not traditional Western song arrangement ideas. And I think that that's part of what makes them cool. And so we're doing some of that too. So I'm just trying to let it flow and be the right guy at the right moment. And right now I'm having to apply that to my own art in terms of adding keyboards and synths to it. So I'm cognizant of that every day. all the time.
Interesting.
I think what.
Sorry, can I just cut in? I just want, after Steve's last statement, which was very spiritual to a degree. Look at that shot there of Steve looking like a kind of
Very nice.
like some kind of prophet. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. The beautiful sunburst of Steve Hillier's room there. Very nice. Yes, you may speak now, Ty.
No, I think what Rich said absolutely right about it all being relative, because at the end of the day, you know, you can make, if you if you have it loud and big and huge all the time. I keep having to have this conversation with directors all the time. It becomes worthless because it means nothing. Everything is relative. The only things that make big sound big is when you have small. That you have to have both. And the other thing is, kind of amalgamating what kind of everyone else has said. Really, is every note essentially has to earn its place. It's as simple as that. If you apply that rule, then you're okay, because every note has to be there. And if you take away that one note or that one sound or that one, it's lacking something, it's losing something. And I think a schoolboy error would be that you fill it so much that you suddenly realize you could lose whole lines and you wouldn't even notice the difference. You have to get to the stage where every note is there for a reason and every silence is there for a reason.
Well, that's a great concept, but I mean, a man with so little time, how do you get to evaluate all of that? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I often, my live setup is I try to keep it minimal, so 2 or 3 synthesizers or whatever. And these Fun Friday things, I'm trying to kind of go, there's 2 synths. I saw that Gaz did a Neutron thing. He did it at like ridiculous o'clock in the morning a couple of nights ago. And he had the Roland EF303, which he's been talking about. And there were just stuff where it's got the sliders for the scale. He was just running an alternating 3 or 4 loop pattern and then just changing the scale setting. So the melody was completely evolving the whole time, but it was just essentially one note. But it sounded really interesting. And I was thinking, I've got to get me some of that. I might have to check into that. But so technology can help to a degree sometimes, I suppose. That's the thing, isn't it? It's figuring out what it is that it can do to help us do that. But going back to the thing that we were talking about, which is the tones and drones and arpeggios. Do check it out. The magic of minimalism. If you can see it, I don't know if you can see it in any country near you. There are ways and means, and you're welcome to do that. But I would honestly thoroughly recommend it. It's quite an eye-opening and interesting, and I again can't wait to get some of that stuff as well. How about this then? It's been 34 years.
Rock and roll.
Since this is Spinal Tap Best Bits, one of the iconic spoof movies, which almost became a real thing. And yeah, 34 years ago today.
Mr. Stein, listen to it. I'm not hearing anything. You would, though, if it were playing. Right. How much more black could this be?
There are many of these things. I think we've talked about spoof movies before, and there have been some great ones. But Spinal Tap was kind of the first and the original, I guess. And I don't know, Rich. I'm going to come to you first because I'm hoping you're going to say, "Yeah, I've seen it," or is it going to be another Blade Runner moment for you?
I've seen more parts of this than I've seen of Blade Runner, but I haven't actually sat down and seen the whole thing. Now, to say that, I set out last night. I searched high and low for a way to watch this thing last night so I could actually sit here and not be the guy who hadn't seen it. And I just wasn't willing to spend what Apple was charging to watch this movie after all these years. But I will watch it at the point where it's on in the tour bus. I've seen like substantial parts of it. I've just never sat down and seen it from beginning to end. And I know some of the routines, and we talk it through all the time. And it's so much of it is so hilarious and true to life. It's incredible. And I live this so much of my life. I've seen so much of this, and some of it is barely even funny to me, because if you think that's funny, let me tell you a story, kind of thing. And there's so many of those that come up for me in the movie is like they think they're exaggerating and they're only halfway to the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's the truth. It is based on somebody obviously has great experience of that, and it's been the fodder of tour buses for years and years and years. I mean, 34 years. That and another couple of movies, I'm sure. Steve, or should I say, my lord, whatever? I don't know. I feel I should address you some other way because you look so kind of prophetic there.
Do you know, I've been trying to work out, is there anything I can do about this?
I don't think you should.
No, okay, let's let it roll.
I think you should let it roll. It's just a happy accident.
Yes, yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, but Spinal Tap, definitely. We had it on the Dubstar tour bus back in the day, and Rich is absolutely right. I mean, first of all, it is a pretty accurate reflection of stuff that goes on, but there's so much more. And if you were to include those stories from real life in a movie, no one would believe you, quite frankly. I did find personally, though, that after I'd seen it about 5 times, I was really yearning to sort of take over the VHS player, and eventually I did, and we ended up watching Peter Greenaway instead, which wasn't quite as big a hit, but it certainly kept me amused, made me laugh a bit more as well.
Yeah, well, there's the light. There's the light and the dark. You've got to have you've got to have both.
Well, yeah,
yeah. Ty, does this figure in? Oh, sorry, just getting another cue done.
I'm just doing some music for Steve.
Ah, okay. Oh, what for Steve? Okay, hold on. Let's have it. Oh, can't quite. It's not quite coming through. I know.
Really? Oh, okay.
Never mind. Never mind.
Can I just say it was very funny here, but there was only me here to enjoy it.
That's the best comedy moments, I find.
Exactly. Just like Spinal Tap is amazing, and exactly for the reasons that everyone said. You know, it's so close to the truth, and obviously we've all experienced these stories, and we all know people who were there. And again, it's, you know, kind of, as Rich said, if you think this is funny, the truth is even funnier. And actually, one of the great pleasures I had that when I was doing Midge's album for the last couple of years is that obviously he knows everyone, he's worked with everyone, and when we were working together, he would just sit here in the corner and just relive stories. That's all he did about everyone and everyone. I can't repeat any of them because I'd be sued. But very, very, very famous people, very, very, very funny stories, and exactly like Spinal Tap and more. And but I mean, if one thing that I should point anyone in the direction of, I haven't gone there, and there is a link here, is Rick Wakeman's books.
Yes.
Something cover. What's the title of it? Something cover Rockstar.
Let's have a look.
I don't remember.
Rick Wakeman, Grumpy Old Rockstar.
Yeah.
Rick Wakeman, Cape Crusade. Yeah.
No, it's something like Tales of a Grumpy Old Rockstar. 2 books.
Oh yeah, there they are.
Yeah, and when I
say
there's
a second one.
Yeah, there are 2. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'll read the other one too.
Them, and I absolutely swear to everybody, forget everything else that's said this week. Go and buy these books.
Oh,
because they are absolutely hysterical. It's basically like Spinal Tap, but it's all completely true. Rick Wakeman is a great raconteur, tells them incredibly well. But also the fact that, you know, the one in Spinal Tap with the pod, with the bass player that gets stuck.
Derek Smalls.
Say again, sorry?
Is he called Derek Small or Derek Smalls or something like that? Yeah.
Yes, and he gets stuck in the pod and gets out just as the last chord is being played. That is essentially based on a real true life story that happened with Rick Wakeman with the drummer. So, and it's worth the price of the book just for that story. And incredibly funny books, definitely worth getting. But Spinal Tap, yeah, it's been part of my life for the last however many years. And yeah, again, you never get sick of watching it. So.
They're legendary, yes. That sort of stuff is, I guess, that's sort of legendary. I mean, I think there should probably be more of these tales from the road, or because there must be, you know. I mean, it's an endless source of hilarity and whatever. But yeah, it's a great film, and it sort of, I would say, encompasses the life, as it were, you know, for many people. Because being on the road is a very weird place to be, or in the studio can be a very weird and funny place to be, because strange things happen from time to time. So I'm told. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of a really funny story now, but I just haven't got them. I haven't got anything. I'm completely gone, but maybe that will come up another time.
I think
Just whilst we're
yeah. Sorry, Steve. Yeah.
Sorry, just whilst we're recommending stuff, just building on what Ty said, there's another film which is similar to Spinal Tap, which I'd recommend if people haven't seen it. It's called Almost Famous. Don't know if that rings any bells, but it came out in 2000, and my entry point on this film, like for watching it, was it has Mark Kozelek, who is he was in a band called Red House Painters and now Sun Kill Moon. He plays the bass player in this band. But anyway, it's basically a band on tour in the 70s, but told from the perspective of a journalist, a very young journalist, and his first experiences of being out with this band. And it's a bit more of a drama than a comedy, but I really would recommend if somebody's got like a boring Sunday afternoon with a couple of hours to kill, this is certainly something to watch. It's great fun.
Excellent. That sounds good.
And also, final thing, Anvil. If no one's seen the DVD called Anvil, the story.
Oh, that's
of
great. That is great.
Anvil,
and that's real, though. Isn't that real,
that's
though?
It.
Yeah.
It's basically Spinal Tap, but it is the real Spinal Tap. It's just full of comedy moments that anyone that's ever been on the road or been on tour or been in a band, it's all of those moments wrapped up into a bit of a comeback for this kind of rock band. They go.
It's quite poignant and sad, isn't it? In a way, it's as well, because it's that trying. They're so close for so many years, and then But it's great. It is a lovely story. It's a bit of a weeper though, because they're so optimistic. There's this optimism even now after kind of years and years. It's lovely. I want to point out, actually, Steve, last week you mentioned Cigarettes After Sex as one of the bands, and somebody left who plays keyboards in Cigarettes After Sex left a comment on the YouTube on Sonic Talk for last week saying, "Oh my God, I'm the keyboard player. I didn't think I'd expect him my band mention." So nice little touch. I'm wondering. Cool. I'm wondering if we've got time for a quick. Does anyone want to cover the MIDI spec side of things? Because I mean, I know it's maybe a bit dry. But it is to do with music technology.
Going out with a bang, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it is. There's just we have talked about this before.
Don't close with good times, you mean?
Well, we try. This might be good times. I just wanted to mention it. Maybe it won't lead to a massive conversation about it. But we talked about the new MIDI capability inquiries, and it apparently got voted in at NAMM. I've been sort of trying to shoehorn it into the show for a couple of weeks. But now the MIDI CL, which basically will allow MIDI CL, which is kind of the latest version of MIDI, or the new version of MIDI, allows machinery to announce itself to other items and say what parameters it has, which means that there'll be a much easier way of mapping parameters, and that's going to be happening there pretty soon, and property exchange and protocol navigation. So it can basically say, I'm this synth, I have got these controls, this is where they're mapped, do your best. And I don't know if that's going to be useful, but I mean, I think it will make a really big difference to the future, because it means that MIDI controllers that speak this language will also be able to deal with it without having to kind of get into wrappers and all of that sort of things, which we've seen lots and lots of people trying to solve this problem. So I think it'll actually be quite a big deal. I don't know whether, Ty, that might help you in your world. I don't know whether that, but because we all end up I'll use Native Instruments, or I'll use this or whatever. That's an interesting sound.
I mean, that kind of stuff is a nightmare for me, really. And a lot of the time, a lot of the reason why it's easier so often to just keep things in the box is, we've had this conversation before, is all about instant recall. And the moment, even with just normal MIDI program changes or kind of assigning stuff, it all becomes a pain the moment you start involving all of the hardware that I've got around here. If there was some kind of protocol that literally did mean every time you loaded up a project, everything is instantly recognized and knows exactly what it's doing and what it's got and how it associates with everything else, that makes my life a million times easier. So that would be really great and useful.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't say any more than I hope it happens, and I hope it'd be great, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve, whether that's something that again, this sort of dream of unified control.
I really would enjoy that, and I fully agree with what Ty just said. It's when you've got so much hardware around. I do actually have hardware in this room. I promise you, it's just all on the other side of this camera. It's yeah, to have the machines talking to each other and having the protocol enable you to identify automatically controller numbers, and that will be really good. The other big thing that I hope this addresses, and I think it surely must do, is I'd like larger word lengths, meaning more than just 128 steps per controller. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're stepping through on a, it's rather obvious on a filter, you get the zipper noise where you're stepping through quantized values that are just rather too large. So let's just, double it. Let's make it a 16-bit word length, and I suspect that would probably go. And in fact, if that was the only thing that was achieved with this, then I would be satisfied, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think that's part of the protocol, because it says I have this control and it can be this resolution. So give me the stuff and we'll be able to deal with it. I don't know, Rich. I don't know whether that's something. I mean, I can see you've got a MIDI controller there. That's like an Akai. You've got you've got the little mini. I got one of those too. Ta-da! They'll snap together. We could get them to snap together. Are you playing it? What are you playing? Is that bar mitzvah gig later?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, things like that, setting up MPE, all of this thing, hopefully will mean
over Bluetooth without any kind of hassle to connect it and everything. I want to play everything with this or some version of this. You know what I mean? And I want it to be easy. I don't want to have to set up 16 tracks of frickin' MIDI. Pardon me. 16.
I think that was fricking.
Of glorious MIDI to record Mary Had a Little Lamb. No, that's not what I want to do for the rest of my days.
Yeah, so this new protocol could actually be quite a big step towards that. I mean, that's what we're hoping. I mean, the MPE side of things is still very seems to be something that they have trouble agreeing on, because I think because it's being a standard's being pushed by Rowley and there are other standards, and it's just just get on with it, guys. Surely. I did speak to somebody who was at the developer meeting where they had to vote on that. He said this was on Sunday at NAMM, and he said he got there at 7 o'clock in the morning where they started like a breakfast type thing. And after 4 hours, he just left. He just said, I can't handle any more of this because it's not because they're bad. It's just because there's all of these factors to be kind of considered, and everybody has to agree. It must be a bit like negotiating Brexit or something.
Well, as it relates to, for example, a 16-bit word, I suspect that they're balancing how much benefit they're going to get from that with backward compatibility. There's no denying it would be better. So it's got to be a calculation that involves maintaining backwards compatibility.
Yeah, I think it says exactly. No, that anything that is the higher specification, if it doesn't get the yes, I'm one of these, it defaults to MIDI 1.0. That's it, for that device. So it's not. I think that is absolutely the case. So
if they can do that conditionally and make it so the way Steve describes it, that would be a wonderful thing.
Yes. Well, there we go. Look, we are ending on sort of a high, because we're all kind of like quite up into the idea, and maybe it'll come. I mean, I guess that there'll have to be instruments that are designed with this in the firmware or however it's done. So I guess that's going to be the case. Right. Well, on that musical and upbeat note, we'll leave Rich with his lovely solo voice. Is that a Rowley voice, or are you playing that on another instrument? Is that a contact voice?
No, this is playing out of noise on my iPad mini, wirelessly over Bluetooth. I didn't have to put 16 channels into record to get it, and I want the whole world to work like that, please. As soon as possible. As soon as possible.
If that's okay. I think that's another. I think that's another title possibility as well. I want the whole world to work like that as soon as possible. Let me just type that down. So it's quite long. Might not work for the SEO like that. ASAP. That'll do. That's how I can keep it short. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have you. It's all these familiar faces that we haven't seen for a long time. Rich, I'm very pleased to have you, but I guess you're going back into the project, so maybe we won't see you for a little while yet. How much longer it's got to run?
I I'll be home next week, and there's a chance for next week. And
Okay, cool.
after that, I'm leaving with Chic for Australia and New Zealand, and Coachella, California, and other points in California. And I'll be gone from late March until most of May.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, have a lovely trip. If we see you next week, that'd
Thanks.
be a bonus.
I may be around next week.
Excellent. Well, pleased to hear it. Also, Steve, thank you very much for joining us. I hope your vocal shows up and it doesn't ruin your evening.
They still haven't showed up. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'll work something out, I reckon.
Maybe what you should do is get them to send you the lyrics, and then you could just do
Yeah.
a scratch version for them, and they might go, you know what, that could be your big break. They could just go.
I've been waiting so long.
As the vocalist. As a vocalist, I mean, you know. Anyway, Steve, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you again soon. And also, Mr. Ty Unwin, also great to have you aboard. And I'm glad that you've managed to clear a little bit of daylight, or certainly artificial light, in between the work, so you've been able to join us this week. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great as ever. Good to be back. I don't know where I'm going to be or what I'm going to be doing, but as ever, we'll all do our best to be here as soon as possible.
Thank you very
Always
much.
good.
Well, that's it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to enter the competition, I'll just plug that one more time. To win Isotope Ozone 8, we're looking for the hashtag Mastering Suite. That's one word, and the hashtag Ozone 8, or is the number 8, to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. Do that, and you will be entered to the prize draw for next week to win a copy of Isotope's Ozone 8, the Mastering Suite. That's the hashtag Mastering Suite, the hashtag Ozone 8, @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all next time, and we can maybe, Rich, if you're still playing, you can play us out with a bit more. Was that Stefan Grappelli? I'm trying to think if that was Stefan Grappelli. I think it was, wasn't it? Oh, he's gone. Never mind. We will see you all next time. Thank you very much, folks.
Take a swig.
Take a swig. Ah. Awesome. Yay! Thank you, folks. See you next time.